Twin Jades of Jiangdong. Chapter 17. Predicament. A fast steed sped over thousands of li, and the bright moon shed its light across the vast river. This was already the third day that Zhou Yu had spent hurrying on the road. On the banks of the river, he had bought the best horse, and along the way, he saw the common folk taking their families with them as they fled south in search of refuge. Even Jingzhou had fallen into the chaos of war, and the round moon shone over who knows how many people who had lost their homes and their families. The sun rose, and it changed from night to day. Under the cruel heat, Zhou Yu was already covered in hot sweat, and his head was spinning. He knew that at this point, if he didn't rest, he would reach his limit. But he had finally arrived. He had reached Mount Xian. He headed north along the river, inquiring along the way, before finally finding the campgrounds of the Changsha troops. He first asked after Sun Sa's life or death and learned that though Sun Sa was fine, Sun Jian had lost his life, and his generals were at odds. With that, Zhou Yu finally set down the heavy stone in his heart. The troops wanted to stop him, but Zhou Yu handed over Sun Sa's waist tally and his way forth was unimpeded as he entered the military camp. Within a tent, a group of generals were shouting loudly enough for their voices to reach even the heavens: Cheng Pu, Huang Gai, Han Dang, Zhu Ji, Su Kun, as well as Sun Sa, each at the end of his rope. At this time, in this moment, Su Kun raged, "We must not seek revenge. We have only less than 4,000 men, and the gates to Jiangxia city are tightly shut. How can it be besieged? If we don't go first and besiege the city," Sun Sa replied, taking on the mantle of responsibility, "you think Huangzia will just let us go?" Huang Gai said, "Sun Sa, this old man knows that since your father has just died, you wish to borrow the grief of the troops to get back what is owed you in this blood debt to Huangziu, but it is the most taboo thing for generals to act impulsively. Why don't you tell me, how will you besiege the city? Don't attack Jiangxia," Zhu Ji said, "and Huangzia will join forces with Xi Mao, cutting off our path of retreat. Even before we leave Jingzhou, we will fall prey to their ambush." Eyes reddened, Sun Sa said, "As of today, whether we advance or retreat, we will be caught in a dilemma. We have already fought our way into the center of Jingzhou. Old General Huang, don't you know that as soon as we retreat, the entirety of Jingzhou will gather up to block us in? The cities that we conquered on our way here will also revolt. The two large cities of Xiangyang and Jiangxia will be even less willing to let us pass." Cheng Pu said, "With the predicament we are in today, we can only write a letter to General Yuan and have him send troops to help." "Impossible!" Huang Gai raged. "If you all are hoping for him to act now, then that is death. Sun Sa, if you can voice a scheme that will give us the upper hand, what harm is there if this old man goes with you to lose his life in Jiangxia?" Huang Gai's temper was the most explosive, and he was also the oldest, with the most experience. He went forward and grabbed Sun Sa's collar, continuing, "Who doesn't want to get revenge? You think this old man and this group of generals are all cowards afraid of death?" Reporting in Dash. Zhou Gongjin of Shu County is requesting to see the generals. Immediately, the entire tent went silent. Zhou Yu didn't wait for them to speak before he walked in on his own. Sun Sa looked at Zhou Yu in disbelief, as if he had never imagined he would come at this time. Zhou Yu's entire body was covered in the dust of the road, and his martial robe was marred in smudges. He was covered in mud, his hair loose and in disarray. He had a long sword belted to his waist, and he even had dried blood stains on him. Cheng Pu, Huang Gai and the others had all seen him before, and the rest also knew of Zhou Yu. After all, not too long ago, it was he who saved Sun Jian's wife and young son Sun Quan from Yuan Shu's manor, giving up his lofty official's position and hefty salary that he had under the Yuan family of the many generations of officials to follow Sun Sa, and treat the Sun family kindly. Within the tent, for a time no one spoke to exchange any greetings. Zhou Yu looked over at the gathered group and nodded, his expression uneasy. After all, he hadn't often interacted with warriors, he had been surrounded by scholars. If he were to speak hastily, it would be all too easy to say the wrong thing. In the end, he only quietly spoke 3 words. He bowed slightly to Sun Ce, saying, "Greetings to Zigong." That night, the bright moon concealed itself, and the abundant stars filled the sky. Zhou Yu laid at Sun Ce's side and jolted violently, moving a little. "Awake?" Sun Ce asked. Zhou Yu sucked in a hot breath, his head splitting with pain as he gingerly sat up. A little while ago, when they had left the main tent, his only thought was to find a place to sleep. Sun Ce, however, was still making no noise at all, and the 2 of them were both beyond exhausted. Thankfully, the past few days had been clear, so the 2 of them found a random pile of dry straw, collapsed onto it, and with Zhou Yu pillowing his head on Sun Ce's arm, they both fell deeply asleep. Even if the sky collapsed, the ground split, and all living beings perished, they finally managed to see each other. They could talk after they slept. Sun Ce only slept for a while before he woke. He opened his eyes to watch the sky. A foot soldier brought over water, and Zhou Yu washed his face and hands behind the stable. A bit later, he still thought he was too dirty, so he got a few buckets of water, and he and Sun Ce bathed in the yard. They both wore only their inner robes, and the summer night breeze was dry but cool. His skin was finally washed clean, and he felt much more comfortable. Sun Ce had people bring food over, while Zhou Yu was still slapping away at the mosquitoes, his neck bright red from the bites. Sun Ce still wasn't speaking, so Zhou Yu poured out some wine for him, and the 2 of them drank in silence. "Have you come back to yourself?" Zhou Yu asked. Sun Ce didn't make a sound. Zhou Yu continued, "When I was crossing the river, the wind was so strong and the waves so large that the boat almost sank to the bottom. Guess what I was thinking about then?" Sun Ce drank a mouthful of wine and raised his eyes to look at Zhou Yu. His eyes were red as he said, "What were you thinking? You came running so recklessly, you didn't even send me a letter." "Fiyu would not have made it," Zhou Yu said matter-of-factly. "When I got the cloth strip, my entire heart was plunged into panic. If you died, then I really wouldn't know what to do. I couldn't sleep the entire night, thinking that if you were alive, I wanted to see you, if you were dead, I wanted to see your corpse. I was not resigned to letting things proceed as they were, so I headed out in the middle of the night. For that bit when I was crossing the river," Zhou Yu said, smiling a little. "I was afraid that the boat would sink, but I thought, if it sinks, then let it sink. Being a water ghost would also be okay, so that when the day came where you came to cross the river, I could ferry you back." Sun Ce sniffled, and tears came pouring out. "How's my mother?" Sun Ce asked at last. "She doesn't know," Zhou Yu said. Sun Ce filled up Zhou Yu's wine, before saying, "Actually, it's not a big deal. At that time, I had found my father's body, and I had Fiyu send a letter to General Cheng, but I didn't expect that it would fly to you instead." Zhou Yu replied, "It thought that you were trying to find me." After Sun Ce drank the wine, the 2 of them sat there silently again. At the end, Zhou Yu asked, "How are the military reports?" "They're in my tent," Sun Ce said. "You can read them at night. When my father died, the troops' morale plummeted, and no one wanted to fight. Right now, the situation is such that our enemy is the knife, while I am the fish meat on the chopping block. We need to find a way to retreat back to Yangzhou and return another day to seek revenge." Zhou Yu said. "The situation is not totally devoid of hope yet, let's see what the circumstances are like before coming to a decision. Let's go, don't think about all these side matters. I'm here, and whether we are going to live together or die together, that can be considered a happy affair." Sun Ce began to smile. They left the yard behind, walking along a small path under the light of the stars as they slowly headed back towards the main military tent. As they walked, Sun Sa suddenly stopped in his tracks, and Zhou Yu's heart thumped as he turned to look at Sun Sa. Sun Sa's hands were clasped tightly into fists, and he could not stop sobbing. Zhou Yu didn't speak. Instead, he walked forward and hugged him, and the two grown boys embraced each other tightly in the quiet night. Soon after, Sun Sa gave voice to his loud sobs, and the sound of his pain echoed under the night sky. That night, at the third gang, Sun Sa was already soundly asleep. Zhou Yu had his outer robe draped over him as he flipped through the military reports under the light of an oil lamp. After Sun Jian died, there was no one to lead this group of dragons. For a time there were a number of matters to take care of, but no main commander to deal with them. Right now, the troops were stationed 70 li from Jiangxia, Xiangyang was close on their left, and the secret envoy headed for Shaochun with a military report for Yuan Shu had yet to be sent out. It was truly a scene of chaos. This was the most dangerous moment that the Changsha troops had found themselves in yet. Within, their wills were scattered, and without, the enemy watched their every move with hostility. Retreat, and Xiangyang, Gong'an, and the rest of the regions would send troops to lie in ambush, and they would probably not even make it out of Jingzhou before their entire army perished. Fight, and none of the cities nearby were targets that could be touched. Xiangyang had 12,000 troops, while Jiangxia had 6,000. The art of war stated, it was necessary to have 10 times the forces to besiege a city. To conquer Jiangxia, they needed an army of at least 60,000. As of today, Sun Sa had less than 4,000 men left at his disposal, and a large portion of them weren't listening to orders. If they were to suddenly attack the city now, it would be equivalent to using an egg to smash a rock. And writing a letter to Yuan Shu asking for aid was even more impossible. The Sun family had long since fallen out with Yuan Shu. Though they had yet to completely openly split, Yuan Shu would at most covet the men and horses that Sun Jian had left behind. After swallowing them, he wouldn't hand them over to Sun Sa to command either. What should we do? Sun Sa asked. You tell me. Sun Sa's eyes were closed, and he laid quietly on the bed in the tent, saying, sometimes I would rather leave these problems behind just like this, not having to bear any burdens, not having to do anything. It would be peaceful. But Zhou Yu responded, as long as they are mortal matters, there is always a way to solve them. Sometimes, the heavens force people to reach the ends of their ropes before giving them a single thread of escape. Then, it just depends on if you can grasp that or not. Sun Sa smiled bitterly and said, let's surrender ba. Either we surrender to Lu Biao, or we surrender to Yuan Shu. Draw lots for me, and we'll send out a messenger tomorrow. Surrender, what surrender? Zhou Yu asked. Your proposal does not even deserve consideration. The soldiers are also human, those are also lives, Sun Sa said. I, however, am alone in the world, and I have no more regrets or burdens. Zhou Yu replied, the generals can surrender, but you must not surrender. Zhou Yu flipped the military report to the next page mildly, before he pulled a map over, losing himself in his thoughts as he looked at the geography of the river banks. A moment later, he said, if they surrender, they are still generals, but if you surrender, you think Yuan Shu will let you be? Nothing more than the dream of an idiot. Lifting his brush, Zhou Yu drew a circle on the map, and Sun Sa stopped talking. The next day, Yuan Shu's messenger arrived. Zigong already knows of the battle situation here, the messenger said. He would like to ask for the opinions of General Sun and the rest of the generals. Zhou Yu glanced at Yuan Shu's letter and asked, what did the great general say? The great general, the messenger said, is naturally willing to send out supporting troops. He has already discussed with General Jiling, and requests that General Sun first return secretly with me. The general already has troops stationed at the outskirts of Jingzhou. When the time comes, he'll hand a portion of the troops over to General Sun to command, and then come fighting his way back in. Sun Sa nodded, and he said, after all, openly going head-to-head with Lu Biao is not good. Exactly, the messenger smiled. The great general has also said that as the prefect of Changsha has passed, that past matters are in the past. Wenta's numerous contributions back during the campaign against Dongzhou cannot be forgotten, and the great general is still willing to respect the memory of Wenta. Very good, Zhou Yu said. Zhou Yu recognized this person. He was a member of Yuan Shu's estate, and usually he bullied both men and women and ran wild through Shaochun, even committing a few homicides. Sun Sa replied, then let me communicate this with the rest. Lord, please wait a moment. Zhou Yu and Sun Sa walked out, and Sun Sa said, I should go with him. Zhou Yu thought for a bit, before asking, what do you think he'll say? Half-truth, half-lies, Sun Sa said. I imagine that on the road, he'll definitely try to plan and kill me, and after killing me, then he'll coordinate aid with Shuangbi, Chengpu, and the rest. But if he cannot kill me, all I have to do then is make good my escape and retreat. Zhou Yu replied, if I were you, I wouldn't go with him. Sun Sa thought for a bit, but he didn't make a sound, only looking into Zhou Yu's eyes. Kill him, Zhou Yu said. Do not let anyone have a way out. I'll go do it, and after 1K, you bring all of the generals here. Sun Sa sucked in a deep breath and clenched his fists, shaking uncontrollably, but Zhou Yu had already pulled out his sword, turned, and walked into the tent. When the group of generals came in, the messenger had already been slaughtered by a single swing of Zhou Yu's sword. His body leaned against the table, the fresh blood from his neck dripping everywhere. Zhou Yu sat to one side, wiping the Chaijun sword in his hand, minding his own business. In place of the already passed General Sun, I have personally killed this person, Zhou Yu sternly said to the group of generals. This man spoke nothing but nonsense, and he spoke of the prefect of Changsha with offense and outrageous humiliation. The letter is here, and generals, please pass it around. No one blamed Zhou Yu, and only Huanggai let out an angry grunt. However, he couldn't do anything about it either, the person had already been killed, what else could he do? A dead man could not be revived, and now, even if they wanted to seek shelter with Yuan Shu, they couldn't. Now, there's only one way left, Sun Sa said. Surrender to Lu Biao. Sun Sa, Chengpu said. Do you think that Lu Biao, with his naturally timid nature and insidious plans, would accept the surrender of someone who bears a grudge on him for killing his father? We need to actually surrender, Zhou Yu said. We'll send the head of the messenger over, and General Cheng and General Huang will then send out a secret messenger from our side. He can just say that there's been changes in the troops, and you've already captured Sun Sa, and wish to offer up us two to Lu Biao in exchange for your entire army's surrender. How's that? Surrendering to Huangzhou was impossible, but Sun Jian hadn't directly fought Lu Biao. The two sides hadn't held any enmity towards each other, so it was hard to say, but perhaps Lu Biao would accept the surrender. And then? Huanggai asked, looking at Zhou Yu. And then we escape along the way, Zhou Yu said. I've already arranged it all. Shu County will send out boats and naval troops to pick us up, so we'll just need to move along the river. That'll work? Sun Sa asked. Zhou Yu replied, even if it won't work, it must work. This is our only chance. As long as we manage to get Lu Biao to let down his guard and grow numb and careless when he accepts the surrender, as we head down south, we will definitely pass through Gongan. We'll wait for the boats on the pier of Gongan, and then turn back north against the river, heading for Xiangyang. At this time, this is the best plan, Zhou Yu said. When can the boats arrive? Zhu Ji asked. It's unclear, Zhou Yu said. The letter has already been sent. How many boats do you have? Huanggai asked, letting out a cold snort. Will there be enough to carry all of us? Zhou Yu didn't respond. He glanced at the corpse of the messenger, and a moment later, some foot soldiers came, dragged the body out, and tossed it. The generals then dispersed, each of them heading back to discuss strategies. Several attendants brought in water to wash the ground of the tent. Sun Ce was stringing a bow, while Zhou Yu was reading the military reports like nothing had happened. Fei Yu had already gone to send a letter, so what came next was seeing how things went on Lu Su's end. Zhou Yu had never been in such a dangerous situation, and his every move, his own life, and even Sun Ce's life were all in someone else's hands. Thankfully it was Lu Su, and it could only be Lu Su. The rain began to fall again, and amidst the incessant patter of raindrops, it was as if the world had sunk into a dark haze. On the third day, Fei Yu finally returned. Immediately send someone to send a letter to Lu Biao, Sun Ce ordered, coming out of the tent. Act exactly as we discussed. On this end, when they welcomed the messenger, Zhou Yu would release the falcon on that side. Huang Gai and a group of generals trussed Sun Ce up, and Zhou Yu said, "Tie me up as well." Sun Ce replied, "I alone am enough." But Zhou Yu said, "You haven't gotten to the point where your men are deserting you, so if you add me in as the military affairs general of the left, it'll seem more believable." After Huang Gai, Cheng Pu, and the rest discussed, they tied Zhou Yu up as well. Huang Gai said, "Zhou Yu, the lives of the entire army are now in your hands." "No problem." Zhou Yu allowed himself to be tied up without putting up a fight, as he explained to them, "Lu Zijing is the eldest son of the renowned Lu family of Shu County, and has been a childhood friend of mine since we were young. He will not let me down." Sun Ce said, "Whip me a few more times, generals, and spare Gongjin his whipping." Huang Gai couldn't find it in him to whip him. Zhou Yu smiled at Sun Ce and said, "You just like to find reasons for a whipping." "I'm happy to do so," Sun Ce said. Zhou Yu took the whip, and he whipped him perfunctorily a few times. Sun Ce said, "Are you trying to give me mosquito bites?" Again. Huang Gai watched, torn between laughter and tears. He had Zhou Yu tie up his legs as well, and he picked up the whip, harshly whipping Sun Ce 3 times. At that, Sun Ce let out a muffled grunt as his outer robes were sliced open and his skin split at that. Zhou Yu couldn't resist the heartache he felt at that. "The messenger's here," Zhu Ji said, coming in. Huang Gai then lifted the trussed up Sun Ce and Zhou Yu, letting them lean against each other. Zhou Yu said, "General Huang." Huang Gai turned to look, and Zhou Yu ordered, "Act as you see fit." Huang Gai nodded, and he had a heavy guard placed on the tent outside. Sun Ce's robes were tattered and torn, and his face had traces of mud and dirt on them as he leaned against Zhou Yu, chuckling to himself. Zhou Yu's forehead was furrowed deeply as he leaned over to inspect the wounds on Sun Ce's body, but Sun Ce said, "They won't be an issue. In a bit, make sure to act convincingly." "I'm thinking, after we successfully escape this place, what we should do after we get back," Zhou Yu said. "Should we go back to Shu County first?" Sun Ce asked, "What do you think?" Zhou Yu couldn't decide either. Sun Ce continued, "When everyone successfully manages to get out of danger, I probably won't be able to fight anymore either. Is that what you're thinking?" Zhou Yu looked into Sun Ce's eyes, but Sun Ce merely smiled bitterly. Zhou Yu knew that Sun Ce had been frustrated time and time again, and had already grown weary. But this matter was not one that Zhou Yu could persuade him on right this moment, so he could only not mention it for now. A while later, the tent flap opened, and Sun Ce roared angrily, "You rebel." Cheng Pu brought someone in, angrily kicking Sun Ce in the face as he did. Zhou Yu was greatly shocked, and his face lost all color. "Bafu." Sun Ce's nose was bleeding profusely from that kick, while Zhu Ji protected the messenger on the side. The messenger said, "Generals, this is a great service you have done. Huanggai let out a cold grunt. The messenger asked, "When did you capture them?" 3 days ago, Changpu explained to the messenger. This little bastard was restless. Originally I wanted to cut off his head and present it to Lord Lu, but thinking of how that couldn't be justified to Great General Yuan's side of things. Good, the messenger said. Very good. Zhou Yu's face was dark as he glared at the messenger, his expression filled with rage. Huanggai shouted, "What are you looking at?" Huanggai went forward and slapped Zhou Yu twice, and the corner of Zhou Yu's mouth bled from those slaps as he turned his head. The messenger was wearing a set of leather armor, and he held a horsewhip. He lifted Sun Sa's chin to look at him, but Sun Sa took the chance to spit on his face, and he immediately flew into a great rage. Changpu and Zhu Ji went forward, giving the two of them another vicious beating, which had Sun Sa slumped to one side, gagging. Zhou Yu was anxious, his eyes bright red. The messenger spoke a few more words, telling the generals to watch them closely, before he and Huanggai left to go write a letter, as well as discuss the terms of surrender. "Are you all right?" Zhou Yu asked. "Bafu." Sun Sa replied, "Those few blows were really harsh." Sun Sa couldn't stop coughing, and he coughed out a mouthful of spit that was mixed with blood. His mouth had split from the beating, so Zhou Yu turned his body and used his shoulder to wipe his face. With great difficulty, Sun Sa wiped his mouth on Zhou Yu's shoulder, before leaning against it. End chapter. Twin Jades of Jiangdong. Chapter 18. Escaping danger. At the third gang, guards came in to deliver their meal. They placed a basin on the floor, and that low-rank soldier asked, "Should I feed the two of you?" "I'll do it," Zhou Yu replied. The ropes on Zhou Yu's hands were tied in a slip knot, so he freed his hands, shook Sun Sa awake, and said, "It's time to eat, Bafu." Sun Sa blearily woke, and his eye was already swelling a little. Zhou Yu then fed him, and he himself ate some of the leftovers, before tying his hands back up. The two of them shrank in the tent like children that had been beaten, and slept curled up against each other. When the sky grew light, the guards that the messenger had brought came in to retrieve them. They yanked Sun Sa's hair, dragging him all the way out. Sun Sa let out a string of loud curses, but just as Zhou Yu was worrying over whether or not they'd be locked up in the same place, someone came a moment later and dragged him out as well. The guards locked the two of them up in a wooden prison wagon, and when Zhou Yu saw Sun Sa again, he let the heavy burden in his heart fall. Under Sun Sa's tattered clothes, his pale skin was covered in bloody lashes from the whip. Zhou Yu asked, concerned, "Does it hurt?" Sun Sa shook his head and gestured for him to move a little closer. Outside, the guard stuck a wooden stick in and smacked Zhou Yu on the head with it. That smack sent Zhou Yu's head spinning, and he slammed into the cage. Sun Sa immediately grew enraged, and a loud roar burst forth from him as he rammed into the bars. The wooden prison cage was almost broken by Sun Sa, and all of the guards were terrified. They took a step back in unison, but Zhou Yu hurried to lean up against Sun Sa, knowing that he had truly gotten angry, and he said quietly, "Don't." Sun Sa breathed heavily, furious, before he slowly calmed. From afar came an order, and the procession began to move. For a time, none of the guards that served as their escort dared to provoke them. What Changpu and Huanggai said to the envoy, Zhou Yu didn't know, but the progression of matters had gone more smoothly than expected, and no one came to humiliate them along the way. Sun Sa was always sleeping, and his wounds had festered a little and were inflamed, so Zhou Yu was very worried. "Hey," Sun Sa said quietly one night, "aren't you sleeping?" Zhou Yu turned his head to watch Sun Sa, saying, "You're feverish." Sun Sa's breaths had a scorching tinge to them, and his skin was burning hot. Getting rained on in this journey while he was wounded caused him to run a fever, so Zhou Yu had to find somewhere to have his illness seen to as soon as possible. They had already arrived in Gong'an, and there were 2 more days until they would reach Xiaka. That was the only time they had to escape. "Hang in there," Zhou Yu said. "We can go very soon." This was a night covered in dark, dense clouds, and the heavens themselves seemed to smile upon Zhou Yu. In the night so dark that 5 fingers could not be seen in front of his face, they had the will of the heavens with them for an escape. But the most pressing matter, which had Zhou Yu undecided for such a long time, was Fei Yu hadn't returned yet. According to their route, with Lu Su leaving Shu County to arrive in Gong'an, it would take him 5 days with his best efforts. He had already sent out the letter 3 days in advance, and they had spent 2 days on the road. If, on the off chance, Lu Su's ships could not arrive at the port of Gong'an, the consequences would be unimaginable. "Do you still remember?" Sun Sa suddenly asked. "What?" Zhou Yu looked into Sun Sa's eyes. "Ever since us two have met," Sun Sa said, "we've been on the run this entire time, because I did not prepare well. I originally wanted for you to come here and be a Jeju in style, and we two would conquer the world side by side, but I didn't expect that every single time, I would be dragging you down, turning you into a dog without a home." Zhou Yu began to chuckle and said, "Being born into a turbulent world means that your life is not your own. What does that have to do with you?" Sun Sa asked, "Has Zijing arrived?" Zhou Yu replied, "Not yet. At least, Fei Yu hasn't come yet. I'm thinking about what we should do." Their voices were very quiet during this discussion. A guard came over, knocked gently on the bars of the prison carriage, and placed a small dagger on Zhou Yu's leg, before turning and leaving. Lu Biao's envoy had brought less than 400 soldiers with him, and if they abruptly attacked them in the dark night, they would be no match at all. According to Zhou Yu's plan, they should kill all of the Jingzhou soldiers here, and then use the cover of the night to flee out of Gong'an, arriving at the port in Gong'an as quickly as possible so that they could get onto Lu Su's ship, then head down south along Chibi. "Attack," Sun Sa said. "Wait a little more," Zhou Yu replied. "Take a gamble," Sun Sa said. Changes always occurred unexpectedly. Sun Sa was the first to slice his ropes apart, and he rammed the door of the prison carriage open. The Changsha troops were sleeping fully armored tonight, having anxiously awaited Sun Sa's orders this entire time. At this moment, when they heard the whistle, they all grabbed their weapons and began to charge at the Jingzhou troops. 400 men, without a chance to put up their guards, in less than a k, the battle was over, and corpses littered the ground. Cheng Pu dragged the envoy over, and Sun Sa beheaded him with a single swing of his sword, before mounting a horse and shouting, "Go to Gong'an." "Have the ships arrived yet?" Huang Gai asked in the darkness. Zhou Yu didn't know how to respond. "Let's get there first," Sun Sa shouted back. The large troop set off in the darkness, moving swiftly along side roads towards Gong'an. This place was not far from Xiaka, and if Xiangyang were to learn of what happened, troops would be sent out tomorrow morning in pursuit. "How many escaped?" Sun Sa shouted. "Quite a few escaped," Zhu Ji replied distantly. "There's no more time. Tomorrow the pursuing troops from Xiangyang will definitely arrive." "Are the ships already here?" Everyone was asking, but Sun Sa didn't even have to look at Zhou Yu before replying, "They will definitely come. Everyone, let's hurry on our way first." At the fourth gang, the Changsha troops rushed into the capital of Gong'an County. In less than half a shishan, the county-level government manor laid down their arms and surrendered, as they had no way to fight back against the Changsha troops that numbered in the thousands. As soon as the Changsha troops took over all the horses and weapons in the city, they retreated to the pier. The sky was faintly growing brighter, and the waters of the river were gray. A dense fog rose on the surface of the river, but there was nothing in the fog, and it was impossible to see more than 5 zhang away. In the distance came the sound of water, and Zhou Yu, wrapped in a long, dark blue robe, his feet bare, stood on the pier, blowing into a whistle. The sound of the whistle traveled through the fog. Zhou Yu watched the dense fog quietly. Lu Su was still not here. General Huang, General Zhuji, Sun Sa said from atop his horse, riding past the troops, "You two are in charge of setting up strongholds outside the pier and setting up stakes for defense." General Chang, Sun Sa continued. "Bring 1,000 men and scatter them through the city. Arm them with bows, and have them lie in wait on the rooftops. Prepare for a dogfight in the streets." "Wait a little longer," Zhou Yu said. The entire pier was filled with a deathly silence, while Zhou Yu held the bamboo whistle in his hand, facing the rushing waters of the river. The sun rose, and the dense fog dissipated like ghosts swirling in a long night, revealing a golden red that coated the river. Amongst the mountains in the distance, faint shadows appeared. Zhou Yu used all his might to blow the bamboo whistle, its sound piercing through the heavens. The whistle carried in it an undisguisable waver of agitation, and the screech of a bird resounded in response. Fiio spread its wings and glided through the air. For a time, the beat of drums rose up all along the river, and some 40-odd new ships, draped in the light of the dawn, approached the pier. The Changsha troops let out thundering cheers. Zhou Yu almost slumped over on the pier. They had finally come. "Lu Zijing!" Zhou Yu shouted angrily. "If you hadn't come today, I would have even lost my life." Lu Su shouted back from a distance, "We ran into a flood on the way, but thankfully we held out. We weren't late, were we?" Sun Sa smiled as he yelled back, "As long as you're here now, all is well." The large boats anchored along the shore in twos and threes, and the Changsha troops immediately retreated onto the boats, which raised their sails and left Gongan. But on the upper banks of the river, hundreds of warships came floating down, and drums beat loudly, instantly turning the center of the river into a battleground. Damn! Zhou Yu's heart jolted. He had accounted for the heavens and the earth, but he hadn't had the insight to account for this. General Tsai Mao is here. Flags rose on the first boat, the commanders, and the battle cry came to their ears at the same time. "Return to shore quickly. Otherwise all will be killed with no mercy." The drum beats thundered, and Zhou Yu immediately ordered, "Line up in formation." The flag bearers raised the flags, and the 42 ships turned, without even the slightest intention to retreat. Sun Sa asked, "We're not leaving." "We can't leave right now." Zhou Yu roared back angrily. "Lu Zijing, you control the left wing. Bafu, you go to the right wing. Use the flags as signals." Sun Sa immediately sprung into action and leapt up onto a board, swinging across on a rope fixed to the mast as he flew towards another ship. Cao Mao had clearly been sent by Lu Biao to swoop in and kill them. After raising his flags and declaring his intentions once, only to see that the enemy was not surrendering, arrows came down like rain, instantly turning the entire center of the river into a battleground. The Changsha troops' warships turned, shifting into two wings that outflanked the enemy. Tsai Mao's large army was like a huge fish, while Zhou Yu's water troops were like a flying eagle, spreading its wings in flight as it moved to engage. Central Division, break through. Zhou Yu stood at the prow of the boat, while slings of arrows rushed towards him in a torrential storm. The guards raised their shields and rushed forward. Zhou Yu had no more effort to spare for flag signals, so he placed his bamboo whistle at his lips and blew it a few times. "Break through!" Zhou Yu shouted. Master Zhou, the commander of the water troops shouted, "The warships have yet to be tested for collision." "Break through!" Zhou Yu shouted. "All consequences will be mine to bear." The Central Division raised their paddles fiercely, letting out earth-shaking shouts, before charging right into Tsai Mao's vanguard. There was a huge bang, and Zhou Yu shouted, "Left and right, close in." In the blink of an eye, the left and right wings folded in, biting down doggedly on Tsai Mao's vanguard. The Jingzhou naval troops were greatly shocked and tried to retreat, but as soon as the warships collided, the gangplanks were pushed across. The Changsha troops, with weapons in hand, rushed onto the enemy ship to slaughter away every single soldier as good as 10. Zhou Yu was waiting for this exact moment. With his long robes fluttering, the Chaijun sword in hand, he charged ahead of the soldiers across the gangplank. "I'll come assist you." Sun Ce roared angrily. Sun Ce grabbed his panlong staff and rushed over, before he raised his staff and swept it in a broad arc. The mast of the ship broke with that blow and came crashing down. Zhou Yu, still dangling the bamboo whistle from his lips, was a little winded. Once he caught his breath, he blew it, and when Lu Su heard the signal, he beat the gong. The ships in the battleground were tangled together, and Cai Mao's large forces were still stuck in the center of the river, unable to make it over any time soon. Fiery arrows flew haphazardly through the air, and from the rear, Cheng Pu's fire arrows came flying like red clouds towards them. At the very last moment, the ships of the Changsha troops retreated swiftly, and the Jingzhou warships which had split from their battering sank in the water. Zhou Yu then gave his orders. The center of the river was already blocked by several ships, and the river was narrow around the Gong'an pier, so Cai Mao would be unable to make it through. Gongs sounded all around. As soon as the river was blocked, the entire army disengaged and retreated, not losing even a single ship. A brisk wind rose, filling the sails of the ships, and 10,000 oars rose and fell in unison as the two sides instantly put some 10+ li between them. In front of their eyes, Cai Mao would no longer be able to catch up. Huang Ziu's army had already come racing up onto the Gong'an pier, while Sun Ce, Zhou Yu, and Lu Su stood shoulder to shoulder at the head of the ship. Sun Ce raised his voice and shouted, "Huang Ziu! You and I have a debt of blood between us, and it is impossible for the two of us to live under the same sky. There will come a day when Sun Bafa retrieves your head from your neck, in honor of my late father's spirit." On the pier of Gong'an, the black mass of troops slowly grew distant, before vanishing on the horizon. The 42 large ships, carrying the 4,000+ Changsha troops, rode the wind and the waves down the Changjiang, returning to Jiangnan. 5 days later, Shu County. The last rainstorm had passed, and the waters were slowly receding. The Changsha troops were garrisoned on the western bank of Lake Chao, with Mount Gu rising to the north, where Dian Wei's troops had changed their camp into a garrison once upon a time. Water came bubbling down from the mountain streams, running into Lake Chao, and it was only then that everyone had the time to catch their breath. During Sun Jian's funeral procession, Lady Wu cried without end, and the entire army was there to see him off. He was buried temporarily at the cemetery on Mount Gu. The mute monk who hadn't gone down the mountain in many years held a string of prayer beads in hand, sending Sun Jian off on his last journey on the slopes of the mountain. Sun Jian's body was interred in Shu County, and would be moved back to the Sun family grave in Changsha in the future. But at the same time, Yuan Shu's secret letter offering amnesty arrived in Shu County. Sun Ce, his eyes bright red, walked along the mountain path. He turned his head back, and with his position as the eldest son, he led Sun Quan to the Mute Temple on Mount Gu to pay their respects. The mute monk, however, refused to see him. Zhou Yu washed the cups by hand in the tea room, offered every person a small cup of tea, and distributed it amongst them. Lady Wu had already been taken into Zhou Yu's mother's home, which left Zuji, Huanggai, Cheng Pu, and Lu Kun. Han Dang had already returned to the garrison to oversee the men. Everything was already taken care of, so now it was time to decide what their future path would be. The Changsha troops had come all this way and stationed themselves here, and the seal of the Changsha prefect had long since been taken away by Yuan Shu's secret messenger when Sun Jian died. As of today, Changsha was no longer the Sun family's territory, and there were only these 4,112 men, who had become an army with no leader. Lu Su closed the door from the outside, and the paper door let out a dull thud. The tea room was filled with unease and stuffiness. "Come, generals, please drink some tea." Zhou Yu finished washing the cups, handing them one by one to the four great generals. Including Han Dang, who was not here at the moment, Zhou Yu knew very clearly that these were all loyal generals. When Sun Jian had been defeated and perished, the generals had had far too many reasons to toss Sun Sa aside and leave. For them to follow all this way, with the future uncertain, was truly not easy. In these past few days, Huanggai said, "It was all thanks to you, Zhou Gongjin. If it wasn't for you going around the Shu County magistrate, we wouldn't even be able to find a place to rest our bones." The entirety of the Changsha troops had left their things behind except for the last of their provisions, and as of now, they were depending entirely on Zhou Yu for their survival. Zhou Yu, however, didn't dare to take even a shred of credit for himself, and he hurriedly said, "Everyone is doing this for Zigong." But he knew very clearly that even though he himself supported Sun Sa as their leader, the others might not. After all, Sun Sa was too young, and the people in front of them had followed his father when he had taken on the position of prefect, so they were all his seniors. Even if they were willing to continue following Sun Sa would probably not be able to control them. Not to mention that with the situation as it stood, Sun Sa had yet to recover from the change of losing his father. Residing at Lake Chao was only temporary, and with this many troops stationed in Mount Gu, sooner or later Yuan Shu would find an excuse to invade. The magistrate of Shu County was unwilling to take on such a heavy responsibility. When they returned to Shu County, Zhou Yu had already come to an agreement with the county magistrate for a grace period of 3 months. He explicitly stated that the Changsha troops were only passing through and residing temporarily here, and when the time came, the entire army would leave. They would not disturb the residents either, and it was only then that he won them a short time to rest here. "Everyone is clear on how things stand," Cheng Pu said, sighing and drinking his tea in one go. "Residing in Mount Gu as guests is not a permanent solution, so we must find a way. What do all the other generals think?" Huanggai was the eldest, and amongst the generals, he was also the most powerful. When Sun Jian was still alive, he called him Xiong. Usually, when he spoke, his tone indicated that he didn't really consider Zhou Yu, Sun Sa, and such juniors as very important. But in this moment, he didn't rush to speak. Instead, he drank a mouthful of tea and asked, "What does Gongjin think?" Zhou Yu was silent for a moment. From the garden outside, he heard the sound of Sun Sa talking with the young acolyte. In reality, Zhou Yu's position right now was very awkward. In name, he was Sun Sa's strategist, yet right now it was he who was providing the entirety of the Changsha troops with a garrison, and he was the one who had put in the most effort as well, which vaguely gave away that he was acting like a host who was taking care of his guests. It was as if he was the master of Shu County, Huanggai and the rest were guests, while Zhou Yu was the host. But, even though he could be said to be the head of a large family or the master of the city, Zhou Yu didn't have the consciousness of a master, and he frequently intervened in the internal struggles of the Changsha troops. He knew that only in this extraordinary period of time, his own actions would be explainable, otherwise they would be seen as exceeding his authority. That would not only affect his own reputation, but Sun Sa would also not be able to accept it. Thankfully, the group had seen Zhou Yu travel thousands of li to search for Sun Sa, and even when they were in dire straits, he did not give up or leave, instead choosing to live and die together. They had finally accepted the strategist who came late as one of their own. At the bottom of it, Huanggai suddenly said, "As of today, there's no need to treat you as an outsider either. It's a pity that the Lord Taishao left us early, otherwise, with your skill, under the command of the Changsha office, you would definitely be able to find a post." "The past is already past," Zhou Yu said, at a loss. "There's no purpose in speaking further on it. If you'll allow me to ask a question out of turn, what do you generals have planned for the future?" In the team room, no one responded to that, and they all sank into a long silence. The paper door sounded as it was pulled open by Sun Sa, who pulled off his wooden clogs and came in. Zhou Yu wanted to rise, but Sun Sa pressed his shoulder down, and he sat back down. Zhou Yu, it's done. Sun Sa nodded silently, before picking up the cup that Zhou Yu had drunk from and drinking the rest of the cold tea. Zhou Yu filled it up again for him, and Sun Sa drank again, evidently very thirsty. They continued like that, until the entire pot of tea had been chugged by Sun Sa. Sun Sa's throat bobbed slightly, and he slowly came back to himself, but it was also as if he was hiding something by drinking that tea. I am sorry for your loss, Huanggai said solemnly, letting out a long breath. Victory and defeat are common occurrences for those born into military families. Fighting and dying on the battlefield, those who are generals are close to those who wield weapons, so they should have expected where they would be buried one day. Your father made his mark on Jiangdong, and no one amongst Dongzhou, Lu Bu and the others were able to block his courageous troops. His death can be considered a fitting one. Sun Sa nodded. Zhou Yu lifted the kettle and went into the yard to fill it with water, only to see that mute monk sitting under the hallway in front of the front hall, writing a set of couplets, while the young acolyte ground ink for him. End chapter.